You're tuned to Music and Ideas here on KBCS 91.3. We're talking actually with some folks that are here with the Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute's Langston Hughes African American Film Festival. So this year, the Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute celebrates its 10th annual film festival. And the film festival is known for bringing great films to the forefront from well-known and emerging talent. This year, the festival honors Robert Townsend and screens his film In the Hive, written by Seattle's own Cheryl West. Here's a clip from that film.
You feel like fighting? You're going to have to fight me first, and I mean that.
I ain't never gonna be nothing.
You don't like the streets no more? Well, I still do. It's in my blood, 6'8" till I die.
Why don't y'all go and take some money from some of them white programs and leave us the hell alone? We trying to make a difference. What the hell kind of difference are y'all making?
Mrs. Inez and Mr. Hollis. They like the mama and the daddy to us who ain't got that. I want to be good and not lie or cheat or do any of the bad things I do. And the teachers who teach me to think, see, because I like the Hive.
That is a clip from In the Hive, and we're going to have more about the film. But right now, we're going to turn to our guest who've joined us in the studio to talk about the film festival. Film director, actor, and comedian Robert Townsend joins us by phone. Thanks for taking the time to talk with us today, Robert.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
And also in studio, we have Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute Artistic Director, Jackie Marscu. Welcome, Jackie.
Welcome.
Always a pleasure to see you. And we also have Rafael Flores, Film Director of The Blank Canvas, Hip Hop's Struggle for Representation in Seattle. Welcome to the show, Rafael.
Thanks for having me.
So, Jackie, I have to start with you. It's the 10th year, so I know that has to feel pretty good.
Yes.
Talk about the importance of being able to keep a film festival, an African-American film festival like this around for so long.
Well, clearly the most important thing is that we bring to Seattle a voice that otherwise would not be heard. So we have the breadth. In 9 days, we go all the way from Seattle to around the world. And we get to support filmmakers and their voices. We get to bring community around what's going on. A festival is more than the sum of its parts. The sum is more than the parts. If you take it collectively, you can literally immerse yourself in culture by and about Black people from around the world. And then we also have the excitement, of course, of filmmakers that come with us, and we have talkbacks. And Mr. Townsend, we have not met yet, but I want to say thank you and welcome. We're absolutely thrilled to have you with us and celebrate your work with us on Sunday. It's just a real treat because we're up close and personal in this festival. And
thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, she kind of threw it to you, Mr. Townsend. So, I will come back to you. What does it mean to you to have a film festival like this, to be able to showcase your work?
Well, I think it's important for us to have different images coming across the airwaves, and I think a lot of times these films would not be seen, would not be showcased if you didn't have a film festival like this, because sometimes, the market gets saturated with the same kinds of images, and somebody's got to create some counter-programming. And, I'm just honored to be a part of the film festival and, what it's been doing for years. And I'm just excited to be coming to town, to see some of the films and participate.
Well, speaking of the images, In the Hive, which was written by Seattle's own Cheryl West, and I spoke with her earlier today, and she was kind of giving me some background about the film. I know it's based on a school in North Carolina, a charter school that you went to visit, from my understanding, and got a feel for. So I want to play a little bit of what she said, and then I'll have you kind of talk a little bit more about that.
Okay.
What happened is Robert went down there, did some filming did some interviews. He sent me a big hard drive and said, here it is, Wes. pretty much make a movie from it. And we've worked together on several projects, so we're sort of used to each other's shorthand. And so I looked at all the interviews, and then I actually had a long phone interview with Vivian Saunders. And, first she was sort of suspicious. Here I am, somebody in Seattle. Finally, I was telling her a little bit about myself, and as soon as I told her I wrote the movie Holiday Heart, she was like, "That's my movie!" And, "Oh, my God, okay, now I can talk to you." So she was just thrilled to have me be the writer on the project, and she was very forthcoming about her story, her challenges, and working with these kids.
So obviously that is Cheryl West, the screenwriter for In the Hive, kind of talking about her experience working with you, Robert, as well as with the main character. But, she really talked about the main character of the film and what it was like for this particular person to take on this kind of school with these young boys. And she referred to them as discarded boys. And that just struck me. And I wanted to know, like, your own experience with kind of learning about the Hive, what your takeaway was.
Well, I mean, one, Cheryl West is a brilliant writer. She is one of the best writers in the world. So it's an honor every time. We did Diary of a Single Mom, In the Hive, so we've worked together on different things. The thing that I would say is that it starts with figuring out how to tell the story, and Cheryl was able to tell an incredible story. And I think that the film has had a major impact for those that have seen it because it's screened around the country at different film festivals. But the only thing that I would say is that she took this story of courage, Vivian Saunders, to really try to get the youth out of gangs and stop selling drugs and trying to figure out how to really reach them, and she did. And I think the film really tells that story. But Cheryl is just, she's just an incredible writer.
Well, what do you think, in terms of the images that people will see? What are some of the things that an audience will kind of maybe deal with in watching the film, and then what are some of the takeaways?
Well, I think the themes of the film, one, we can't give up on our kids, because one part of it is that the kids have a heavy diet of what they see on television, what they hear on the radio, what's, music is out there, and that kind of shapes them. Like when I was a kid, the shows reinforced morals and values. The shows kids watch these days, they got cursing in it and all kind of crazy stuff, and it makes kids act out. So I think when kids watch the film, and adults, teachers will have an experience because it's about how this woman was affecting these kids. The kids can see through the main character who's trying to get out of the gangs what it takes, and, when you have the world against you. So there's a lot of life lessons within the piece.
And you speaking of the main character, I do want to go back to Cheryl. When I talked to her earlier, she did talk a lot about the main character, Vivian, and this is some of what she had to say about her role.
So this woman, Vivian Saunders, felt that she could make a difference. And she is a woman who does not have advanced education, but she had raised 2 sons, and she said, "It's up to me to do something about my community." And she started this school with the help of One Economy and said, "I am going to feed these children, I am going to love these children, and I'm going to find teachers that will educate them." And she gets up at 4 every morning, cooks the meals for these kids. They have breakfast, lunch, and sometimes supper. She runs an after-school program for them. She gets clothes for them. She is there. She goes into their homes and helps the entire family. She just was one person that said, "I am going to make a difference."
And it sounds like, obviously, the film is going to make a difference, too. I know that the film has also been shown on BET as well, so I know that it's something that's widely out there, but definitely people will get an opportunity to check out In the Hive on Sunday, as well as you're going to be screening a documentary from 2009, Why We Laugh. And I did want to have Mr. Townsend, I wanted to have you speak to it as well as Jackie, but what is the kind of thought process behind bringing that back out and introducing that to the public?
Well, the first thing let me say about In the Hive, In the Hive has premiered on BET, but I really want people to come out and see it on the screen, because what they're going to see on Sunday is the director's cut. It's edited on BET, and it takes some of the power out of the film. And so to get the full impact, I really want people to come to the theater. What theater are we going to be in? Because I want people to know. If they're just tuning in right now, this is Robert Townsend, 5 Heartbeats, Hollywood Shuffle, coming in with my new film, In the Hive. And we're going to be at what theater?
Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute.
Langston Hughes Performing Arts Institute, and that is in Seattle. And the website?
The website is www.langstoninstitute.org.
Jackie, I did want to come back to you. Talking obviously In the Hive is just one of many films that will be showing, and we do have Rafael Flores in the house, and we're going to be talking to him in just a few seconds about his documentary. But do you want to talk about any of the other films that are also showing this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many. That's why you should go to the website. Tonight we have, Garifuna in Peril, which really talks about Native African culture. That's the language is being lost and things like, and how the elders want to keep it going. We have a great movie, Home, that tells about a disabled person and how his goal is home. On Saturday, we have a wonderful filmmakers panel discussion that Mr. Townsend will also be taking part of with other filmmakers, basically talking about what it's like, what are the opportunities, what are the fundraising challenges, and different things like that. We have an LGBTQ family and friends section from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock that has some incredible films, including a wonderful film called Bumming Cigarettes. We have an amazing film called The Retrieval at 4 o'clock on Saturday. We have, of course, the wonderful Blank Canvas from Rafael
Yes, and
Flores.
I'm gonna have to turn to him, because I mean he's been sitting here so patiently, and I know that you have a lot to add to this discussion, Rafael. So I want to turn to you now. Your film, The Blank Canvas: Hip Hop's Struggle for Representation in Seattle. You worked on this documentary for 6 years.
Yeah, it's coming up on 7 now, actually. So when I wrote that description, it was 6 years.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about what's happening in this documentary and what people are going to hear about.
Started as a documentary about the social landscape of various artists, everybody from graffiti artists to producers to radio engineers, all the way to graffiti artists. And we really asked about their thoughts about the struggle of being an independent artist in Seattle, in the hip hop community, and then also some of the challenges they face. And really, it just is a forum to really preserve, document, and celebrate the amazing accomplishments that they've had in a city that likes to think of itself as seemingly liberal, but in reality, it's a little bit more difficult for hip-hop artists.
Right, well, and talk about that a little bit, because why do you think there has been such a struggle, if you will, for hip-hop to kind of emerge as or for Seattle maybe to get the representation that hip hop is, a driving force for musicians and artists here in the city?
Well, it's funny because, Seattle has always been thought of as a music city. You have the legacy of Quincy Jones, you have Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, various artists, but a lot of them actually occupy a realm of rock history, right? But, now with the recent success of people like Macklemore and the Blue Scholars before him, Sir Mix-a-Lot, of course, we're starting to emerge as, this new scene. And there's a historical challenges that a lot of artists have faced in not only Seattle, but in particular the Central District and the south end of Seattle, where a lot of black and brown communities reside. One of them was the Teen Dance Ordinance in 1985 that lasted until 1993, which prohibited all-age youth hip-hop shows, which severely stunted the growth of the scene. You also have things like the Gang Bill, which is some argue is part of the gentrification, and the urban renewal forces that are going on in the Central District, which actually prevents a lot of young men who dress in similar fashion styles to congregate on corners where they can practice their craft and be in a cipher, for instance. They're immediately profiled as being in a gang. That's the Gang Bill. That's an actual legislation. We also have things like the graffiti laws that are in Seattle, which are very, very harsh and
right.
really. Yeah.
And I actually want to say, now we did take a clip from your documentary talking about the graffiti laws with Nightmare, and I did want to play that.
You can get a year for spray painting on a third-degree malicious mischief charge. Third degree, that's the lowest. A year in jail. I know people who stab people who serve less than 2 or 3 months. And it just seems like really unbalanced, and it's the wrong way. I think it's the wrong approach. Studies show that outreach is really the most effective way at combating property damage and graffiti-related property crimes. And so we try to go with that angle. And a great way that we have kind of started to build the gap between legislation and art is going to businesses, hitting the streets, and approaching them. Hey, do you have a problem with graffiti? Let us paint a mural for you.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about that. I mean, that seems, pretty extreme when you listen to it and, from the perspective of this artist. Obviously you were listing off some things like that you kind of discovered in the making of this documentary.
Right. I mean, we have this progressive reputation in Seattle, right? But the reality is we have a long way to go. Right? I mean, the city of Seattle can learn a lot from other cities like San Francisco or Oakland that have integrated these and have worked with grassroots artists and organizations to really be cooperative, constructive, collaborative, and really engage the community. And really, that's the beauty of this film, is that the mode of production actually complements the content in the film. And with that paired with premiering here at the Langston Hughes Performing Arts Center, that's amazing. I mean, that was one of the centers where some of the first hip-hop artists...
The Arts Institute. It is now the Arts Institute.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I remember the old one. It's growing and getting even better, which I'm very, very excited about. But, with that growth, it's really fitting that this film would premiere at this film festival, because that's really where the center of a lot of those pioneers first started the early forms of hip-hop culture in Seattle. So we're excited.
Okay. And Mr. Townsend, I'm coming back to you because I recall that you didn't get to talk about the Why We Laugh. So I did want you to comment on that. I've seen that a while ago. So it's really nice to see that kind of coming back out of the shadows and giving people an opportunity to look at it. But why do you think that's an important piece of that's a documentary, if you will, of different comedians kind of coming together and talking about these different issues that Black and brown people laugh and talk about, in stand-up. So can you talk a little bit more about that to give people an idea of what that is?
Why We Laugh is a documentary that I did on the history of comedians, and it's got everybody in it from Bill Cosby to the Wayans brothers. It's really a love letter to comedians from the past that probably didn't get their due. So we honor Richard Pryor, we honor Dick Gregory, we honor Flip Wilson, and it's just to put comedy in a certain perspective, because I love comedy, and I think sometimes when I see certain comedians, they can go a little too far, and so it raises a conversation about what we as a people should have or shouldn't do as it relates to comedy. Do we cross lines and barriers? And so I'm really proud of the documentary, and I just want to thank everybody at the festival for screening it, because I guess Sunday's Robert Townsend Day.
That's what it is.
Sunday is Robert Townsend.
I'm just excited to be there and to show it, and I'm proud of the film, and I'm proud of In the Hive, so it's just going to be a good time.
Okay, well, yes, Sunday is Robert Townsend Day. Let's see, it is going to be In the Hive, and let's see, the Celebrating Robert Townsend event is happening from 4 to 6, and that's prior to the In the Hive screening,
and
right?
And then we have a reception,
and
go
then,
on down and have some food.
There
and
you
come
go.
Back up and see another film.
All right,
yes.
So In the Hive, director Robert Townsend, writer Cheryl West, Seattle's own Cheryl West, and also Rafael Flores with his film The Blank Canvas, Hip Hop's Struggle for Representation in Seattle, and of course the artistic director for the Langston Hughes Performing Institute, Jackie Moscou. Thank you all so much for being here on Music and Ideas. We appreciate it. And if people want more information, you can learn more at LangstonInstitute.org. LangstonInstitute.org.
206-684-4758. And can I just say one more thing?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
I'm going to let you take the last word. Yes, you can.
It is such a pleasure. This is the wonderful thing about the job, to actually create programming at our institute that actually brings this kind of energy and thought. And just this little taste of what happens when you come in and we welcome you into this world that goes from hip-hop to comedians to actual education issues with local writers, international writers. And again, I want to say thank you to all the filmmakers that actually make this possible. Rafael, Robert, We're going to have a great time. And I do also want to mention Sunday begins at 1 o'clock also with another film, What About Us, from a local filmmaker. So I want to make sure we stress the local filmmaker,
And
Brian
don't
Johnson.
forget the Blank Canvas Saturday at 7 o'clock.
Oh, that's excellent. Again, thank you all very much for talking with us today on Music and Ideas. And I'm sure we'll be hearing lots of good things, and we'll be looking forward to the 11th Film Festival next year with Langston Hughes Performing Institute.